You're listening to the Farmyard Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Farmyard. It's a movement, have you heard? And our Patreon supporters. The Flower Farmer, with host Linda Borghi and guest Lisa Ziegler.
Well, hello there. Linda Borghi here from Farmyard. It's a movement, have you heard? How are you on this glorious day? I'm recording this in January, and it is cold outside. Some of you that have been listening to the Farmyard podcast know that I've moved from Beaufort, South Carolina, started in the Hudson Valley of New York State, then went down to Beaufort, South Carolina, and I was there for a couple of years, and now I am in Silver Springs, Maryland. So it's been quite the transformation going from the South to I guess Silver Springs isn't really the North. Being a Jersey girl, I would think, up that a ways would be more north. But anyway, I have a very bright episode for you today. A very bright guest. This particular guest was recommended by one of our previous guests, Shawana Coronado. She wrote the book, The Wellness Garden, and we just hit it off pretty well. And if you didn't get that book yet, please go out and get it. It's one that you really need in your toolbox. And she said to me, Linda, you've got to contact Lisa Ziegler. I mean, other than you and me, I've never heard anyone refer to soil and compost in the way that the three of us do. So I did. I contacted Lisa, and Lisa is a flower farmer, and she's also the author of two books. One that came out in 2014 called Cool Flowers with a C, C-O-O-L, and another book that's coming out March 29th, and that is called Why Do Vegetables Love Flowers? So let me bring Lisa on so we could ask her some questions like, why do vegetables love flowers? So Lisa, are you there?
I am here, Linda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, and it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you so much for coming on and taking this time. I know how busy farming is. It doesn't allow you an awful lot of free time to do, whatever the heck you want. So I really appreciate your time. I would love to start off with just a little bit of your background, like how many brothers and sisters you have, where you grew up, and when and why you became a flower farmer.
Sure. So I am in southeastern Virginia. I live in my husband's grandparents' homestead where they were 75 years ago. I was born here in Newport News, and actually my family home is only about 10 miles from where I am now. I have an older brother and a younger sister. They both live within 5 miles of where I live, and we're pretty thick in family. My husband's family is the same. All his siblings live right here, and they have a family business, and my flower farm, plus some other things, is a family business. And so we're pretty thick, as we say it, in family around here, and we love it. We just love it.
I've never heard that term before, pretty thick in family.
Yeah, well, it's as you can tell from my twang.
Your twang.
People think I'm from Georgia, but I was born and raised right here in Newport News, Virginia. But yeah, we're pretty heavy in family, you would say.
It's funny. I'm the oldest of 8.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm going to start using that term.
You're thick.
We're that thick in family. My goodness, just when I look at my nieces and nephews, very thick. So, but you guys have stayed right there. You were born, raised, and you're really embedded in that community.
We are. I'm from both sides. My husband and myself, we're both from strong entrepreneurial families. Mm-hmm. Lots of entrepreneurs in our family. And I think that generally kind of keeps you where you are. You go into business and as we like to say, we're rooted in like turnips here. We're not going anywhere. So And both of our families participate heavily in our day-to-day lives. So yeah, it's pretty wonderful. We love it.
So, okay, so now you decide you're going to be a flower farmer. I mean, how did that manifest in your life? How old were you? What gave you that feeling? Why did you, what made you do that? Go down that road?
Sure. So I actually did not come from a real gardening family. My family just had a landscape. And I started dabbling in gardening about 30 years ago, and just kind of fell in love with it, as most people do once you start doing it. Then I just so happened to meet this great guy who happened to come with this great piece of property and a bunch of gardening implements. And I happened to pick up the same book that you mentioned that you read, Lynn Basinski's The Flower Farmer, and knew I had found my dream. And I went from being a single girl paying my own mortgage to not having to bring home the bacon anymore. And I loved my job. I was a business manager of an animal hospital for 18 years. And I love that job, but I was able to quit that job to pursue flower farming. And as they say, the rest is history. It just, everything fell into place. And here we are 20 years later.
20 years later and 2 books later.
Yeah, because I really piggybacked. Yeah, what I do also need to say is that I'm an urban flower farmer. I am in the middle of a city of 200,000 people. I'm the last commercial farmer in what was once a very large Mennonite farming community. Wow. I'm last man standing, you might say. And so I'm a novelty, but I'm landlocked. And so I only have 3 acres. And so I always knew that I couldn't be a big producer, although I learned that I didn't need to be a big producer. We produce at high season, when I was going full throttle, 10 to 15,000 stems of flowers a week from this little farm. But back when I was developing my farm, I knew I needed other ways to generate income for my business because I was limited in land. And so I've piggybacked a lot of other writing books, lecturing, doing a lot of teaching and on-farm workshops, and just a lot of, my fingers are in a lot of different pieces of pie.
Well, yeah, and I think that's very important, diversification, because if you look at anything, you want diversity, whether it be soil, whether it be people, you want diversity. That's what makes it very, very interesting as well. Now, we were talking a little bit before you came on the call, and you were mentioning that in the past 5 to 8 years, flower farming has really, taken off in our country. Can you get into a little bit more information in that area for us?
Sure. So what most people don't realize that just 30 years ago, 80% of the flowers purchased in this country were grown in this country. Well, that flip-flopped about 30 years ago. And today, the numbers are almost completely opposite. 80% of the flowers that people purchase are actually grown in South America and imported. And people just really do not know that. And so in the past 5 to 7 years, we're familiar with slow food.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last.
Are you familiar with the term slow food? A lot of people.
Oh yeah, slow food.
Okay.
Why don't you explain it to the listeners?
Sure. So slow food is a movement that started I don't know how many years ago it was.
It's got to be about 20 now.
It's 20, about eating local and eating seasonally, eating what's growing, in your region. And so slow food really started the movement. Well, about, I'm not sure, Deborah Prenzing, who is a good friend, started a movement about 5, maybe 8 years ago called Slow Flowers. It's the same principle, but just applied to flowers. And along with that, the Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers really kind of was already on the scene. But we both started working for the same purpose, was to educate people about where their flowers are coming from, and that they're not grown in this country, and there are options for people to buy local American grown flowers. And so that kind of started a movement of where we have seen in the last 5 to 8 years this influx of flower farmers, people that are choosing this as their careers. And most of them are small growers just like me, people that have under 5 acres, some that just have an acre, serving their local floral trade. And it's really it's a wave right now. There's lots of conferences that I attend, and we just are so excited about how many young people and married couples. And anyway, it's become a viable career, and it's a very, very exciting. You can visit the Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers online, and there's all kinds of information there. And there's a documentary that you can watch that we made a couple of years ago that really tells about the flower industry.
And what's the name of that documentary?
Local Flowers. Oh, I should know the name of this. Local Flowers, Local Growers. It's on YouTube also.
Well, you know what? Lisa will send those over to me, and I'll make sure that both of those links, all of the links, will go in the show notes, so you won't have any trouble, getting there. Well, that is so interesting because, as I had mentioned to you and to the listeners, that at one point in time, I was a salesperson for a cut flower importer out of Cresskill, New Jersey. And so I know that all of these flowers were coming from all over the world. I mean, South America mostly, with the roses. And, when you start looking into how these flowers are being grown, I started to really freak out by people smelling roses, actually putting roses to their nose because of all the poisons that were being placed on them and that they were being grown with. So it's really nice to see a local movement because, generally speaking, if you're a small farmer, number one, you've got a different consciousness with the earth beneath your feet because you don't have massive amounts to take care of. There's no hectares involved. Would you agree with that, Lisa?
I would.
So your focus on your soil, because, Farm Yard, our biggest deal is we don't grow plants, we grow soil. Once you grow soil, the plants grow themselves.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
It's a matter of teaching people how to grow the soil. So, but what's so exciting, first I want to ask Lisa a question. Here's the question, Lisa. So, why do vegetables love flowers?
Well, Linda, what most people don't think of or realize is that nature provides the most powerful pest controllers, pollinators, and basically the workers of nature that will come into your garden and take care of business. When we invite them and when we don't kill them using pesticides. And the way that we invite them is with flowers. And many a vegetable gardener I know is struggling with trying their best to be an organic grower, to not use chemicals, to do this vision that people have of, the good bugs eating the bad bugs and pollinators are abundant and they want that picture. Well, the way you get that picture is you must have flowers present in your vegetable patch from the first crack of spring right up until frost. Why would the good bugs come to your garden if there's no flowers? I mean, really. And because that's what they're there for. I mean, they're coming for the flowers. And so Vegetables Love Flowers is really all about, the tagline for this book is Vegetables Love Flowers is the name of the book. And the tagline is Companion Planting for Beauty and Bounty. This is not a book that tells you to plant A next to B. This is a book that teaches you that the ultimate companion planting is having flowers present all the time, and do not use pesticides, because even organic pesticides affect pollinators and beneficial insects. And it takes about 2 years after you've gone off drugs, as we say it, to really see nature in action. But I lived this life. I've been a farmer for 20 years. The first 7 or 8, I used pesticides until I woke up. And so we live this, and that's what Vegetables Love Flowers is all about, is just introducing people to this concept that it's all about the soil. It's all about you don't need to use chemicals, and how they can garden without using pesticides. That's why people use pesticides, is they want to fix their problem. And Vegetables Love Flowers shows them how to prevent problems. Instead of chasing around looking for the fix, you prevent the problems from ever happening, and that allows you to focus on growing better and greater stuff.
Now, how did you actually come to know this?
Becoming a flower farmer, and I kind of write that story. The introduction of the book is all about how I married into this vegetable gardening family, and they didn't really grow flowers at all. They grew vegetables, and I wanted to grow some flowers, and I started putting a row here, putting a row there. And then my little business of selling those flowers took off so well from the get-go that I was so overwhelmed, because I was also growing vegetables for our family and extended family, plus growing my little flower business. And I was using pesticides from time to time when I had a problem flare up. And then I got so overwhelmed, I just didn't have time to do anything about pests. Literally, I just abandoned the garden to have its own way with itself and just kept on growing. And I suddenly realized after a year or two that, I'm just not seeing out of control problems in my garden. And it sounds so simple, and it's not that simple day to day, but it really is simple when you stand back and overview it. Yes, I still had some outbreaks of pests, because you have to have pests for the good bugs to have something to eat. The good bugs eat the pest bugs. And pollinators were just, you can hardly walk through our garden in the afternoon because the pollinators are so abundant. Bumblebees and native bees and our neighbors' honeybees. And so I just kind of woke up one day and thought, wow, this is the way that a person imagines that nature works. A garden full of butterflies and birds eating pests and bees and all the good things. That's what I share in the book, is how it happened to me and how you can implement some of those steps at home.
I tell you, it's exactly the experience that I've had in my life. Living in Beaufort, South Carolina, I was there for 2 years, and when I arrived, there was nothing but fire ant drilling holes. I had never seen the lack of soil. It was like sand, completely sand. But I knew that through, biodynamics, I was farming biodynamically, using biodynamic methods, bringing in organic material, wood chips, mushroom compost, that I could build that up. And within 2 years, the second season, I had cultivated 600 square feet, and I had 500 zinnias growing on those 600 square feet.
Yeah.
Amongst nasturtiums and morning glories. And I'd go out there at a certain hour in the morning, 10:15, and there'd be all those butterflies. I felt like Alice in Wonderland.
It's true.
Felt like I was in a Disney movie. I would sit in the living room and they would just dance in front of the front window. So it does. We need the pollinators. We do not need grass. We absolutely need to dig up that grass. 80 million pounds of pesticides a year gets put on turf grass. I mean, it's really something so So has to give. But there was another aspect of your business that was so interesting about this book. When this book comes out on March 29th, did I hear you correctly that you're going to have an online course with this book?
It's actually, we call it a virtual book study.
Okay.
And it's free. Uh-huh. And so what will happen is you can go to our website, which is thegardenersworkshop.com, and just go to the book on the store like you're going to buy one. And right there's a button where you can sign up for my virtual book study. And what will happen is starting in February, we'll shoot out an email each week with a little short video of kind of like the making of Vegetables Love Flowers. There'll be, I'll be talking about how the book came to be, and I'll have a little chat with the photographer, Bob Shammerhorn out of Richmond, Virginia, who is an award-winning nature photographer. He's amazing. We'll talk with Bob. And anyway, so we'll weekly build up to when the book is launched. And then once the book is launched, we'll go through the book chapter by chapter with me kind of connecting the dots a little deeper, and, just kind of digging into the book together week by week. So, yeah, that's a lot of fun. I did that there's a Cool Flowers book study on my website. You can get your copy of Cool Flowers, read a chapter, and then watch the video. And it just brings it all home. It connects the dots really great for folks.
It's so important because, we are so dumbed down in this area. We are not teaching, nor are we taught the skills to grow anything.
Right.
I mean, it's just, we used to have home economics and woodworking class and now there's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're graduating students from the university that a lot of them don't know how to boil an egg nor balance a checkbook. And that's not fair.
Yeah. So I agree with you. It's all about, and I didn't, like I mentioned earlier, that I didn't come from a gardening family. So I kind of had to figure everything out. And then I married into a big gardening family. And that really pushed me ahead, because I do have to disclose now that the place that I farm was composted for 80 years before I got here.
Oh, dear Lord. Oh, my God.
And Shauna, I'm surprised Shauna, our mutual friend, surprised she didn't say to you, I say in my lectures, because I go to all the Mother Earth News lectures that are all over the country, and my line in one of them about seed starting is that our soil is so amazing here because of the way it's been treated for all these years. All I have to pretty much do is hold up a seed packet and show it to the soil, and it about grows.
That's what she said. She did tell me. You just throw it out to the wind, and it just, wherever it lands, it just grows.
And that's how it is when you have great soil. People don't understand that. When you take care of your soil, everything else falls into place. And that's when you really love gardening. And in my opinion, it is your obligation to learn how to garden, which means gardening without pesticides and chemicals, because it can be done. You owe it to yourself, your grandkids, and everybody else that's around to do that. And so chemicals and pesticides are shortcuts most often, and that's not the way to do it.
Not at all. And like we were discussing earlier before the call, is that when you begin to have a relationship with that earth beneath your feet, other things start to shift.
Oh, yeah.
It's such an interesting progression. And you're right. I like that. I like that the way you put it. You owe yourself.
You owe it to everybody. You owe it.
Really,
I do a lot of lecturing to flower farmers, and I am taking the stance now, as you kind of grow and mull things over, I think it's your obligation to learn how to grow it without pesticides. And then there's some things that I would never grow because it is nearly impossible to grow them without pesticide use. Mm-hmm. And because you're not growing them in their natural setting, and what your conditions are. And so, yeah, I mean, we have to share that message with people. A, it's possible. B, it's not it's less work in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so much easier than, trying to use all these different things. You kill more plants with chemicals than you help them.
Well, I never could understand how we could use things that kill in order to grow things that support life. I didn't understand that concept from the beginning. And then thinking about it and then studying it, there was a time that all food was organic.
Yeah, that is the original way to garden. People don't quite understand that. That's the way the world was made to work.
Yeah, and we could look in our country right back to the Victory Gardens.
Yep.
That's
right. And what did they grow in the Victory Garden? A row of flowers with the vegetables, I'm telling you.
I know. I see it. I see it in every map. Well, Lisa, I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make a little series with you, Missy, and get you to come on here again and give us some, updated information, especially after the book is published on the 29th. And I know you had mentioned to me when we spoke a week ago that there's one day a year, is it, or a weekend, that people come, that your farm is open and people come from all over the world to visit you?
Yes. So our farm I'm in the middle of the city, as I mentioned earlier, and we're not set up to have parking and that kind of stuff. So that's why we're not open to the public. But we do open one day a year. And it is, I'm looking as we're talking here, it's in June. And it's free. And it's from 9 a.m. to 2 on a Saturday. And it is June 23rd this year. And we do have people that come from all over, everywhere to come and to just kind of see, can you do this in the city? Can you farming and doing what we do? And we'd love to have people come. And our website, thegardenersworkshop.com, has a calendar that has that date plus many others of my appearances. And also our workshops. We just opened registration on our on-farm workshops, which we just started doing last year. And we have some home garden days, and then we have 3 flower farming days, the getting in and figuring out how to do it. So yeah, check it out.
Sounds great. Well, I think we did good. For people that aren't millenniums, huh? We got on the call, we got it recorded.
Yes.
And we're moving the information. It's just showing people that we really care, because honest to goodness, I don't think either of us really have to do this.
Nope.
Right?
Nope, it's all by choice.
That's it. And we're going to get this food train wreck turned around. Well, thanks again, Lisa. I truly appreciate you giving us your time. And boy, all the information we received. And can't wait to get your book, Why Do Vegetables Love Flowers?
Thank you, Linda.
Well, thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Patreon pledgers. How could we do it without your pledges, right? All of our podcasts are free on iTunes. So this way you are supporting the movement. Thank you very much. Well, as usual, I will see you on the flip side. And until then, go farm your yard.
This podcast is community supported. We thank everyone for tuning in, and a special thank you goes out to all our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy our content, please subscribe and share. You can help support us through Farm Yard, all one word, on patreon.com.